Hello, welcome back. My name is Charlie, and it's the end of September, which means it's time for my monthly wrap-up, which is the video that I put out at the end of every month where I talk about all the books that I've read, all the books that I'm currently reading, and then all the books that I'm planning on reading in the next month, so in October. After that, I'll dip quickly in and out of some channel stats, channel updates, and then a little bit of channel planning for next month, although the next month plans for this video are going to be pretty brief because we'll get there, but you can probably guess why. I'm about to have a baby. I have no idea what I'm going to do next month. Spoilers for the rest of the video, but let's just jump right into it. It was a fairly light month in terms of reading for me, a very heavy month in terms of other things that I had to do. So, that makes sense. I was away a few times. I had people here a few times. We hosted family for a few days. We had a baby shower, baby sprinkle that took a lot of work to put together, and then took a lot of work to take apart after, kind of clean up the whole house. And it was very fun, but it was just it was very busy. And I've been doing a lot of work around the house just to kind of try to get ready for the baby. Like, I'm working on the nursery. I've been working on the nursery for a couple weeks now. There's a lot of woodwork type of stuff that I'm trying to do, which I have no experience with. So it's been taking me, it's a lot, but I'm doing some wainscoting around, wainscoting, that's the word, around the walls. And then I'm going to be painting it and then wallpapering the top half. It's a whole thing. It doesn't matter. I've been busy. So I've only finished really one novella, one short story, maybe novella. It was 90 something pages. So somewhere between short story and novella, and then one full length novel. And then I'm currently reading two others, and I'm honestly, I'm very close to finishing another one of these books, which is a bummer. I almost put off making this video for a few days because I think if I wasn't filming this now, I would probably be finishing this other book, but we'll talk about that when we talk about that. The first book that I finished this month was The Murder on the Lamplight Express. I've talked about this series a lot recently. It's the Lamplight Murder Mysteries series. It's a fantasy murder mystery series that is just so good. Morgan Stang is the author, and it's just, I'm just so impressed every time I read one of these books. I've read two of the novellas, right? They're all, it's a series of novellas, two novellas and a short story in between. But every time I enter back in, it's great. I read the first one a while ago, and I don't know why I didn't immediately barrel into the second one, but then Morgan Stang released that short story, which I talked about, I think, last month, which was really good, and that propelled me right into book two, or, the second novella in this series. I guess it's not, I don't know if it's going to be, I think it's going to be more books than just the three that are out now, but they're really good. If you like murder mysteries at all, and you like fantasy, absolutely pick this up. If you liked The Tainted Cup, absolutely pick up this series. I love The Tainted Cup, but I personally, at least, I think these Lamplight Murder Mysteries are way better. And again, I loved The Tainted Cup and A Drop of Corruption as well, which is the sequel to that one. But this series, oh, it's just so good. It's so good. Like I said, these are novellas. It's a series of novellas, and so I can't really tell you much. And this is book two, so I don't want to spoil anything. But I will say they're pretty self-contained. The murder mystery that's happening, at least, is self-contained, and then there's some carryover in some characters. The main character definitely carries over, and then there's a couple other characters that come from book one into book two, and the short story that goes in the middle is the same thing, but they're all contained adventures, sort of. So that's neat. That's good. I like that because you don't have to, or I don't have to, because my brain just doesn't always work in general. And so sometimes when I take a break from reading a book, and before reading the second book in that series, I'm totally lost, and I have to do a refresher and watch a bunch of videos and read the synopsis and reviews of the first one again before I can get back into it. But since these are so self-contained, and like the characters are so strong, like the character work is so good, and the main character is like Isabeau Agarwal is her name, and she has such a presence, and so she's unique enough, and the stories are again like contained, so it doesn't happen. You could take time between these, which makes them the perfect series to slot in between meatier books, like heavier books, more brain heavy books. These are very much they, at least to me, they feel very Knives Out, very Clue, very Clue, like the movie, at least, where it's those scenes where they're solving the crime in those movies, where they're, the whole cast of characters is running from room to room, and people are like, oh, this happened here with that person and this thing and blah blah blah, and they're putting it all together. That's how these whole books feel. Like the whole thing, it feels like that level of energy and chaos, and it's really good. When I catch up to this series, I'm gonna have to do a full deep dive, or like just a series review, because I need to get more people to read these books. They're terrific, and that's it. That's all I'll say for now. I've already rambled too long. It's a tiny little book. It was really good. Highly recommend the series. After I finished that one, I pretty much immediately went into my next audiobook, which I finished in one night. I was doing a lot of dishes that night, and I popped in this audiobook. It was only like an hour or two. It was really, really short. This is Frederick Bachman's And Every Morning the Way Home Gets Longer and Longer. Totally different tonally from that last book that I talked about. This was terrific. This is my first time reading Frederick Bachman, which was exciting for me, because I've been talking about how I wanted to read him for a long time now, and I finally did it. It was really powerful. This is the one that I was saying was somewhere between a novella and a short story in terms of length. I think it was 96 pages, something like that. So very, very short. But somehow powerful is the word that I keep coming back to. It just really got me. I didn't like break down crying, but I got a tightness in my chest, and I was just really feeling for these characters. And I don't think that's just because I do have ties to the subject material, without spoilers, because again, this is very short, so I don't want to give too much away, but this deals with like dementia, or Alzheimer's, or that type of thing. Our main character is dealing with that, and that is something that it has played a part in my life. So there was some part of me that was relating to what was happening in the story. So I know that I'm sure helped me to be impacted by this book, but I don't think that's a requirement. I think anybody would be able to read this and feel something as they did. I think it sort of helped to give me just like a new perspective, or like a fresh perspective on the subject matter, on dementia, which again has played a part in my life. And I've had people in my life that have dealt with dementia, and it's hard. It's hard for you, the person that is outside of that dementia, and it's it's way harder for the person dealing with it themselves. But I think that's an interesting thing about these sorts of things, right? Like, it's the first thing that you think of when I'm talking about dementia, right, is probably that you were thinking that this is a horrible thing and that you are afraid of that. And I think that's a logical, sensible first thought, I think, but just instinctively you think that. You think of, oh, that's a bad thing and I'm afraid of that. I don't want to have to deal with that. And then on the other side of that, when you are actually dealing with that, when you're seeing somebody else deal with it, rather, that kind of changes, and it goes from a fear of that happening to me to a fear of that happening to the person that I love. Like, this person is dealing with this, and I'm sad about that, and I'm afraid kind of for them. At least that's how I felt, is that I couldn't understand it. I don't know what that is like for you, and that's hard. That's hard for, again, though, for me. It's hard for me to see that happen to you. Is a weird thing, right? And you feel bad for them, but it's also hard for you to understand it. And so that's tough. And this book helped me kind of flip to their side, right? I mean, I'm kind of describing empathy, right? I am empathetic. I'm a very empathetic person. This book, or this short story, helped me kind of switch to their side, right? It puts you in their shoes a little bit. And so I get to see a little bit of what it might be like for the person over there that's actually dealing with it, which I think is just helpful in terms of coping with your understanding of it, or like, with by building your understanding of it, you're able to cope with the whole experience a little bit more. So I think it was a bit of a healing book for me. Really hard read, but really well done, handled very elegantly. And it's not that the book made me feel better about this stuff, right? That's not what I mean by this closure. Like I don't feel like, oh, okay, maybe dementia is not so bad because of the things that happen in this book. That's not the case. You get to see how hard it is. It puts you in their shoes, but and it shows some good things for sure. Like there's a little bit of levity to it, but it also shows that it's really hard, and it also does show you kind of like their perspective seeing me, right? Like their perspective dealing with me, and instead of me being on my side, seeing them not remember me, right? This is a very, I'm explaining this poorly, but I get to see them seeing me and not understanding who I am, if that makes sense. So anyway, I don't want to go too far into it because, again, it is really short. Again, I do think you should read it. I gave it 5 stars. I'm going to read it again because, again, it's super short and I got a lot out of it. So I want to read that again. And they have it in my library, so I can just go and pick it up again and again whenever I need to go back, and I think I definitely will. So that and the Murder on the Lamplight Express, both 5 stars, both for very different reasons, but really, really good reads. Both also really quick and easy reads as well. Easy in terms of like reading, like turning the page. That part is easy. They're well written and they just flow. From there, I went to my first horror book of the year. That was The Fisherman by John Langan. I briefly mentioned that I was reading this in my last video, but I have now finished it. This was good. Not as good as I wanted it to be, though. I think that's partially my fault, I will say, because I just dropped it. Because I've been so busy, I wasn't able to give this full, unbroken attention. Like, I gave it a lot of attention for a few days, and then I took 4 or 5 days off, and then I came back to it, and it was so partially my fault. Maybe if I didn't do that, maybe if I was able to just start it and finish it, like, without any breaks in terms of like days off, maybe that would have been better for it, or for me and my experience with it. But I also think I had problems with the way that it was written and really the way that it was structured. This is essentially 2 stories in one book, and I didn't know that going into it. Maybe if I had known that, it would have helped me a little bit too, but I didn't know that, and there are 3 parts. Part 1 and part 3 are following the same characters and the same story, and then there's part 2, which kind of takes a break from those characters, and it's a really long part, and it goes into kind of a related story to them. The characters from part 1 are being told the story that is part 2, if that makes any sense. And that's an interesting way to go about this. But it was long. Like part 2 was really long, and I really liked part 1, and I really liked the characters in part 1, and I was really invested in their stories. It was a story about grief and kind of dealing with that, overcoming grief through, fishing really is like picking up a hobby. That hobby being fishing is how this one character is coping with his grief, and then he meets somebody else who is also needing to cope with some similar grief, and he's like, "Hey, come fishing with me," and it was really good, really interesting, and it was, that part of it felt mostly like just contemporary fiction. It didn't feel like a horror novel, for sure. It didn't feel like fantasy elements yet. There was like one little thing in part one, I think, if anything, that was like a little bit mystical, and then I was like, oh, whatever, maybe not. But then we get to part two, and in part two, they've met somebody at the end of part one who is going to tell them a story, and John Langham is honest in the book. The character that's about to tell them the story pretty much says like, this is going to take a while. And I was like, okay, whatever. And then he starts going, and he starts telling this story, and it's like a story within a story within a story almost at certain points. And it's just, I wanted to get back to part one. I wanted to get back to the characters in part one. And I kept being like, okay, here's another chapter where we're still talking about this. We're still telling this story. And I don't really understand why I felt like that, because part two is interesting. Part two is good. Part two is it's a cool story. It's this, I can't tell you really what that part is about, because I think that would spoil a lot, but it was good on its own. Part two was good, but I was here for part one for some reason. For whatever reason, my head had decided that part one was the book, and part two, I wanted it to be just a quick, maybe a couple chapters, if it had to be more than one. But it just a little interlude and then back to the story. But it just kept going. Part two, I haven't checked like the page count, but part one was definitely a lot shorter than part two, and I think part three was also shorter than part two. And I'm not even sure if part one and part three together are as long as part two. Again, I have not checked. I could be way off with those numbers, but part two felt like the bulk of the story. I later found out that John Langham has written like a lot of short stories. I think he mostly has written short stories, and this is, one of his full-length novels. But that made sense to me. That I was like, oh yeah, okay. That this is very much two short stories, and he wrote them and then put one of them in the middle of the other, and that's at least how it feels like this was written. Like it was written separately and then glued together. So yeah, I'm conflicted with this, because again, the two stories that it were both individually good, but I think together it took away a lot more of the experience than it added. If those words mean anything in that order. I think individually the stories were cool, together a little bit less so. But I didn't dislike this. I liked it. I just wanted a little bit more, and I think it could have been improved on by addressing some of the things that I just mentioned, by making part two shorter. Or honestly, when I got to the end of it, I kind of felt like we didn't need part two in this at all. Like I kind of feel like I could have read, maybe I'll do this at some point, go back and revisit this and just read part one and part three. I don't think you would be lacking any understanding. I think you would understand everything without reading any of part two. I don't think you needed it. It's just, they were, anyway, I don't want to complain about it too much, because I do think some people will love this. I do, people on the internet like it. The people that this was a buddy read. I didn't mention that. This was a buddy read that I did with two of you. Hi. And I did enjoy it. I enjoyed the experience of buddy reading it with them, and they both liked it a lot more than I did. So I've been negative on it, but just because this is the first time I'm getting my thoughts out. I think I didn't even give my final thoughts in that buddy read, so sorry to you too. I don't think I did that, but those are my thoughts. This is the first time I'm getting these thoughts out, and so that's why I think they're coming off very negative, but they're just partially negative. I did really enjoy part one, and part three was a good closer, but yeah, I had issues in between there. It's definitely like a modern take on Lovecraftian stories, and it sounds like it does a really good job in that regard. I have not read Lovecraft stuff before this. Not that this is Lovecraft, but Lovecraft-esque stuff, I guess, like this. I have not read any Lovecraft, so I can't fully speak on that, but I've heard a lot of people say that this is really good. It does all of the best things from Lovecraft type stuff. It does them really well. So I don't know. Maybe that helps you. If you like Lovecraft, maybe you'll like this. Ultimately, it ended up at like a 3 for me. So good. I enjoyed it. Didn't love it. Now I'm going to switch gears into my current reads. I am currently reading, I guess, 3 things. I'm like currently really reading 3 things, and then I'm currently sort of reading 2 others. Those 2 are things that I've talked about here in the past, and I still haven't finished them, and I'm like never picked them up, but I haven't committed to DNFing them. The book that I'm reading right now that's on the top of this pile is The Path of Destruction. This is part of the Darth Bane trilogy, or yeah, it says series, but I think it's a trilogy. I think there's 3 books. It's my first Star Wars book. You see that? Which is really exciting for me. I don't know. I watched the movies, most of them. I haven't seen like the most recent movies, and I haven't watched any of the shows. But I think sometimes I feel overwhelmed by the Star Wars universe, just in terms of like media, not like the actual space universe stuff, but overwhelmed in terms of like I don't know where to start. I don't know what to watch. I don't know what to read. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to handle it. But a few of my friends were picking this up. One of them picked it up and like loved it, and then a few others were like, "Oh, okay, let's do it." And for me, again, I this is my first ever Star Wars book, and I was like, I don't know, like, can I read this? And they were like, of course you can, idiot. Like, why wouldn't you be able to read a book? I think I assumed that you had to read all the Star Wars books in some order, and there's like hundreds of Star Wars books, but that's not the case. It doesn't sound like that's the case for almost any of them. Like you can pick up whichever thing you want whenever. I've now watched tons of videos on Star Wars, like reading orders, or not reading orders, but like what to read first kind of videos. And they're all like, well, you could start with these 50 books if you want. And they go through each one. Like, if you like this one very specific thing, maybe try this one. Otherwise, try this one or whatever. And so I didn't have to be as scared as I was, is what I'm trying to say. But anyway, back to the book. Really, really good. I can't give you my full thoughts because I'm not quite at the end. You can see my bookmark there. I'm actually closer to the end than my bookmark suggests, because the back there's a chunk at the end that is like part like the next book. It's like the introduction to the next book. So I'm like 80 something % through the book. I will probably be finishing it, if not tonight after I film this, then tomorrow. And I couldn't be more excited to finish it. And then I really can't wait to get to the next book in the series. I typically don't do well with the sci-fi type stuff, but this one, it's doing it for me. I don't know if it's because I am familiar with Star Wars, right? So I know I can picture some things, and I'm able to, if I can't picture something, look it up, and there's pictures online, which is nice, and that's very helpful. Maybe it's not heavy on the sci-fi stuff though, right? I feel like a lot of sci-fi feels very smart, and this just feels nerdy. Like I'm not. That's a good thing. It just feels like it's just fun space things, but it doesn't feel like I have to learn while I'm reading it. It doesn't feel like I have to understand anything, like other than just like conceptually, like this is fun. that's really my understanding. This follows like kind of like a villain too, which is cool. Like I didn't realize that it was going to be. I thought it was going to be like about Darth Bane as like our villain, and it is kind of, but he's also our main character, which that's cool. That's not like a POV that you get too often. At least I don't in the books that I read. So that's neat. Again, I'm not going to give you my full thoughts because I haven't finished the book, so I don't have my full thoughts. But really, really fun so far. Highly recommend you pick it up, and I'm absolutely going to be picking up a lot more Star Wars from here, which is worrisome for me because I already have a massive TBR, and there's a lot of Star Wars books. I am also reading The Names by Florence Knapp. Can you see that? My lighting today is quite poor, I think. So I don't know if you can see that, but The Names by Florence Knapp is what I'm reading. I got this a while back. I've talked about it on the channel a few times, and you may notice that there are 2 bookmarks in here. One of them is a banana, and one of them is a stick of butter. That is because I'm buddy reading this with my wife, which is really cool. We haven't done that before. We've like listened to audiobooks together, or we did that one time, and that was fun. But this is the first time that we're fully buddy reading a book together. So the structure of this book is, or well, I guess I'll tell you what the book is about. The book is about a woman in an abusive relationship, and I mean that it's there's a lot of on-page domestic violence, so huge trigger warning. Avoid at all costs if you are sensitive to that stuff, because it's graphic, it's intense. But anyway, woman in an abusive relationship, and she's just had her second child, and she is on her way to give the baby their name, which I guess is a thing in some places, or maybe at some times, but it's not a thing here that I was familiar with or now. But anyway, that's a thing. So she's going to the registrar's office to give the baby the name, and her husband, the abusive husband that she has, is named Gordon, and he was named after his father, who was named after his father, and whatever. And so the name is passed on, and he is now having his first son, because their first kid was a girl, and he wants to name him Gordon, kind of just pass the torch. And she doesn't necessarily want that, because he's a terrible dude. She doesn't want to make this baby be anything like him. So she feels like by giving him that name, she's just setting him up to be another Gordon, another bad dude. So she's on her way to the registrar's office, and she's with her daughter and the newborn baby. And, she just is having a conversation with her daughter, and she asks her, like, oh, what would you name the baby? If this was your choice, what would you name the baby? And the daughter throws a name out there, and they continue talking. The daughter's like, what would you name the baby if it wasn't going to be Gordon? And she throws out a name as well, a name that she likes. And that's the prologue. All of what I just mentioned, that's just in the prologue. So that's, it's a couple pages of the book. You get everything that I just said. But I won't give you any more details than that, because I can't give you any more details than that, because I've only read 3 chapters. The reason that I've read 3 chapters is because of the structure of the book, which is really cool. After the prologue, the story splits into 3 alternate timelines, sort of. So there's, the 3 timelines are the 3 names, right? So if the baby is named after his father, if the baby is named after what the daughter wants to name him, and if the mom gets to decide the name. Those 3 names are like the alternate timelines, which is a really interesting concept. And from there, it's kind of like, name number 1, name number 2, name number 3. And then there's a time jump. Name number 1, name number 2, name number 3. And then there's a time jump. And so 3 chapters at a time, my wife and I are passing the book back and forth. So we both read the first 3. She has read the next set of 3 chapters, and now I have to catch up. And the first 3 were brutal, honestly, but really, really well written. This is a debut novel, and I'm already very impressed by the author's writing style. So I'm really looking forward to continuing on with this, and I'm really, really, really looking forward to talking to you more about it, because I think this is going to be a good one. I think this is going to be big. I think it just got picked up for like Book of the Month, or not picked up for it, but like I think if you have a Book of the Month subscription, not a channel sponsor. I'm a baby channel and I have no sponsors, but if you have a Book of the Month subscription, I believe you can get this in that. So that's going to be great for Florence Knapp, I'm sure. And it sounds like this is going to be really good, or feels like this is going to be really good. I'm excited. I'm excited to continue that. I am also working my way through a graphic novel. This is Helen of Windhorn. Look at the art. You see that? You see that art? This is stunning. The artwork in this is just amazing. I'm trying to flip through and find one that's like, yeah, okay, look at this. This is just gorgeous. This is the castle that they live in, or like the manor or whatever. Ugh, my lighting, whatever. You can see it. The art is really good, is what I'm trying to say. That was one example. Every page is stunning. I'm pretty early on in it, so again, I'm not gonna spend time talking about this one, but so far, really good. That's another buddy read with some friends. I'm really enjoying the other two that I'm reading, and again, I'm not going to spend hardly any time on these, but Empire of the Void and All-Star Superman. All-Star Superman is a Superman comic book. I am liking it, but I honestly, there's a whole chunk in the book where you're dealing with like Bizarro type stuff, which is like Superman, but the opposite. And it's just annoying, and I don't like it, and I didn't enjoy it. And every time I picked it up, I was like still in it, and I was like, okay. And I read a page, and I was like, okay, I can't do this, and I put it down, and it totally killed my momentum. I was really enjoying it up until that part, and then I didn't care about it at all. So I've finally made it through the end of the Bizarro section, at least I think. So I should get back to it, but it really killed all the momentum I had there. I don't know when I'll pick it back up again, but I will pick it back up again at some point. And then Empire of the Void. This is that book that I bought a while ago, based on nothing but the cover. The cover is so weird, and I love it. But this was an exciting purchase for me because it was a book that I bought without any influence. I had never heard of the book before. I didn't look anything up about the book. I just saw it on the shelf, read the back, like the blurb on the back, thought it sounded neat, and I bought it. I took it home and I started reading it, and that was really cool because I never get to do that anymore. When's the last time you did that? It's hard to do that. It's hard to not be influenced in every decision you make, at least, like when it comes to buying something. It's hard at least for me. So that was exciting. It's not super doing it for me so far. It's like totally fine. I have no issues with it. I'm enjoying it when I'm reading it, enough at least. But it's very standard. It's like, this couple. I mean, it's not standard maybe, but it's just not crazy. A couple is going through space because Earth has run out of room, and they're looking for other planets to settle on. They're going to, find a planet, go back to Earth, or at least like, call Earth and be like, hey, we found one. We can all live here. That's their goal. And that's it. That's the premise, at least. And then they get to a planet, and they immediately stumble upon life forms that live there and get taken prisoner. That's where I'm at. I'm not very far in. That's what has happened so far. It's not doing anything super original up until this point, at least. Maybe it will continue to get better. I will finish it at some point because, again, it's not like a painful read. It's fine. Everything else that I pick up recently is just so much more grabby. So every time I go to pick up a book, it's just not that one. I'll get to it eventually. It's not a DNF at all, but it's just not something that I'm reaching for right now. So what am I going to read next month? This is going to be, I think, a pretty short section because I just did a video last week where I talked about my fall TBR, and it was 10 books that I want to read in the fall this year, which we are officially in fall, so it is time to begin. And so I talked about 10 books that I want to read, and I mentioned in that video that the first 5 in that list were my priority TBR. So the first 5 books that I mentioned in that video are the ones that I want to get to right away. The list is pretty much the same. The list of books that I want to read next month is pretty much that. But again, I am having a baby next month, or sometime in October. I don't know when. I know the baby's due date, but babies are tricky, so you never really know what's going to happen, when it's going to happen. So I have no idea what I'm going to get through this month. I have realistic expectations that I will probably make it through 2 books next month, maybe 3, probably at most 3, but fall continues after that, and so I will continue reading the books that I mentioned there. The 2 books that I want to read most urgently are, I'll start with this one, A House with Good Bones by T. Kingfisher. Again, I just talked about this a lot in the last video. This is the book that I want to read with you. So this is going to be a buddy read for the month of October. I haven't, figured out the exact timeline of when I want to like structure the buddy read for this book. I don't really know how that works, how other people run their buddy reads. I've only done 2 buddy reads so far, and so far I've done pretty like regimented buddy reads. Like I've mapped out the month and I've said, okay, we're gonna have these many check-ins. Like, every week we'll talk about this much of the book, and so it's been fairly structured. But with this one, I mean, it's a pretty short book. It's not huge. I think the audiobook is like 7 hours. The physical book is 240 something pages, it looks like. So it's not huge. I will probably finish it in a week, like probably week 1 of October. I'll finish it, and I don't really feel the need to spread that out over the course of the month like arbitrarily. So I'll probably, I don't know, maybe I'll just do like set it up on Fable so that the month of October is when I'm reading this, and then I'll drop my thoughts as I read it in like little discussion channels. But I'm not sure if that's what everybody wants. So if you feel like joining in on a buddy read for this book and that sort of thing works for you, let me know. If you prefer like a more strict schedule or like outline of when to read things, let me know that too. I just don't know, like, can I just do like a check-in every day? Like I want to read this in a week. So I don't know how that works. Let me know if you've done buddy reads on Fable outside of my own. Let me know how they typically structure those if you could. I'd appreciate that. But yeah, would love to have you join me on this buddy read. It's essentially about a person who goes to check on their mom because I think their brother tells them, like, mom seems off, you should go visit. And so she goes to the house that she grew up in where her mom still lives, and things are weird. Like there's, her mom's acting funny. The house just doesn't feel right. And then she finds like a jar of teeth somewhere, and she goes outside and there's like vultures circling the house and weird stuff from there. And that's pretty much what I got from the back of the book there. I don't know what to expect really, but I love T. Kingfisher. Everything she writes, there's like a bit of an eerie folkloric vibe to it, and I don't know if this is going to be like that, but everything that I've read by her so far has felt like that. It's all been really creepy, and I think that this amps up the creepy just a little bit more. Like it's a little bit more horror coded. So very excited to dive into this one. And like I said, I'm going to be picking this up October 1st and going from there. After I finish that, I really want to read The Lesser Dead by Christopher Bjornman. I don't love this cover of this book, but whatever. That's not important. I love Christopher Bjornman. I've read 3 of his books so far: The Black Tongue Thief, The Daughter's War, and Between Two Fires, and all of them have been so good. So I am very excited to get into more of his stuff. I think we are like the perspective is that of a vampire. Like it's not about people surviving in a vampire run world. I think it's about the vampires living in a world. And I believe it takes place in New York and like the subways of the city where the vampires have kind of taken over the subway system, and that's where they live, down in the tunnels. And that's pretty much all I know about it. But I'm very excited. I've heard really good things about it. So yeah, really looking forward to that. Those are my top 2, the priority reads for next month. And then from there, if I somehow make it through, all of that, finish Darth Bane, finish The Names, finish Helen of Windhorn, finish A House with Good Bones, finish The Lesser Dead, then maybe I would be picking up, Dead Silence. Dead Silence I really want to read. It's like space shipwreck with ghosts. Sounds really cool. And then from there, because I've been bit by this Star Wars bug, maybe Death Troopers, which I know pretty much nothing about, but it sounds like a little bit of a spooky Star Wars book. That sounds cool. And from there, and this is really reaching here, there's no way I'm going to make it to these, but I would love to pick up Something Wicked This Way Comes, or We Used to Live Here. They sound really good to me. I don't think I'm going to get to it, so I'm not going to talk about them much right now. Now, really quick, very light on the channel stats today because it's been a very light channel month this month. It was, pretty low growth. My output wasn't as high as it normally is, and normally I put out like at least 4 videos a month, and this month I had to skip a week. I missed a week of uploads, which really hurts. YouTube hates it when I do that, so that stunted the growth a little bit more than usual, I think. So we got 3 videos out, including the one that I'm putting out right now, the one that you're watching right now. The 2 prior to this one were my fall TBR, which is the one that I just mentioned, where I talked about like 10 horror books. And then before that, I had done my video, which was like my reading vlog for The Failures. And I had a lot of fun with that reading vlog. The viewership was pretty good. I think it came in at 198 views, so just under 200. So if you want to help push it over 200, go watch that video. I would appreciate it. I put a lot of work into that video. It was a lot of fun to make, but it really took it out of me. It was a lot to edit that one. Note to anybody who has any interest in filming a vlog, edit as you go. I didn't do that, so I filmed myself doing things for a month, and then at the end, I had to edit together a month worth of footage. But if I had filmed myself for 5 minutes and then edited that 5 minutes and then, gone about the rest of my day and done that over the course of the month, it would have been really easy. But I made it really hard for myself. So it took it out of me, which I think is partially why I had to miss a week. I was really busy, but I was also like a little burnt out from filming that one, honestly. It was exhausting. It was a lot of work. It took a lot of time. And then honestly, and this doesn't typically bother me, but because I did put a lot of work in, it was like a little bit of a bummer that it didn't do very well. Like I thought people like reading vlogs, but people did like it. People liked, people that watched it. I got a lot of really good feedback. So thank you so much if you are one of the people that said kind words. I did really get a lot of really good feedback, which does feel really good. But I think I was expecting the numbers to be bigger, which is dumb. And I normally don't care about that, but I think it's just, again, tied into the amount of work that I had to put into it because of the way that I handled it. I did that poorly. So I don't know. It put me in a weird headspace with the channel in a way that I typically, I don't find myself there. Like I'm not typically worrying about the numbers. I think about them. I see them. I check my app to see how many views are coming in, but it doesn't typically like bog me down as much as it did after this video. I think that's why I typically don't. I think that's why I don't like setting expectations for myself. And I think as I was filming this and as I was putting it together, those expectations kind of built themselves up somehow. And I had higher expectations, and then when it didn't meet it, I was disappointed, which again, I don't typically in my whole life set expectations. I just let life happen the way that it's going to happen and, be happy with what you get. And that's typically how I exist. And I like that. And it works for me, but it just didn't happen for this moment. And it put me in a weird headspace about the channel in general, which it doesn't matter. None of this, this is just a fun thing that I do. So I don't like that I felt that I felt like heavy after that video. So I don't know when the next vlog is going to be because it was, I don't know. It wasn't good for me, but I will do one eventually because I did genuinely enjoy doing it, but I'll just do it the right way. And then I'll take the load off or, whatever. It'll make it easier. The horror TBR video did do well though. I think right now it's just under 400. I think it's like 380 something views, which is really high. That's really good. So again, thank you for checking that one out. Thank you for hanging out here at all. Honestly, I appreciate you. That was great. I think it's been since July that I've had a video do almost 400 views. I think in July I had one that was just over 400 views. Actually, no, in July I had one that was over 1,400 views, which was really good. That was my mid-year freakout. That was like that was really high. I don't usually hit those numbers, so that was nice. But yeah, it's been a while. Like I've been back to my normal, which is like somewhere between 200 and 300 is like typically my view numbers, which is great. But yeah, this one was slightly above that, so that was fun to see. And that's it. Then there's this video. We'll see how this does. My monthly wrap-ups are all over the place, honestly. I feel like the people who watch wrap-ups are the people who watch wrap-ups. So I feel like in my head, it makes sense for them to all be like consistent in terms of like views and interaction and everything. But sometimes they go high, sometimes they go low. I don't really get it. But we'll see how this goes. These are my favorite videos to make and to watch. So these are never going anywhere. I love these. But yeah, that's all I have on the stats, really. Again, a little bit of a lower output this month, just again because of life and my brain. Last month I did well in terms of subscribers. That was like a really high subscriber month for me. I think I got just under 50 subscribers, and then this month it was like 13, which is still really good. So thank you so much if you have joined in this last month. I really appreciate that. If you have not yet subscribed and you're still watching this video, you should consider subscribing because you've been here a long time. So you must be getting something out of this. Feel free to click the button. I appreciate that. That's it for the stats. And now really briefly, what is going to happen next month over here on the channel? I have no idea. I don't know what's going to happen in October. I don't know what's going to happen in November, honestly. It's possible that I just continue my weekly uploads. It's possible. I don't know. Like that, maybe there will be no break. Maybe I will have a baby and it'll be fine, and I'll still be able to do these videos. I am assuming that is not going to be the case. I'm assuming that as soon as this baby happens, I'm going to make like one post on YouTube saying like, okay, baby's here, I'm out. And then you're probably not going to see me for several weeks after that. Not because I don't want to keep doing this. I do want to keep doing this. This is like the most fun hobby that I have right now outside of the actual act of reading. So I love doing this. So I will be back eventually, but it just comes last. The hobbies come way after family. And so I'm going to be there with my wife and our new baby and helping our existing baby or toddler adapt to that, which I think is going to be a big not challenge, but change. It's going to be a big shift around here. I think in every way. I think every part of my day is just going to look different. Every part of my week is going to look different. And, it's just, everything's going to be different, and it's really exciting. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. But those first 6 weeks of having a baby, at least for me, the first 6 weeks of having my toddler that I have now was just a whirlwind. And so I'm assuming that doing that again with a 22-month-old is just going to be next level. So all that to say, I don't know what you're going to get from me next month. At least I would think 2 videos are going to happen. Probably my TBR cull video, which is the one that I didn't get to do this last month. I love making those videos. They take a lot of time. So I think that'll happen probably next week, honestly. We'll see. And then maybe also the House with Good Bones review video, although maybe I'll save that for the end of the month or maybe even early next month, since it's going to be the buddy read. And I like to do a review video for the book that I've done, a buddy read review video or like a vlog. I think that's just a good idea because it just helps the buddy read feel like it has come to a full-on conclusion. So yeah, maybe that makes more sense to make that end of October or November, the House with Good Bones review. So not that, but maybe like this end of the year book tag has been going on. A few people I've seen have already done it, which is funny to me just because I feel like it sounds like it's a tag for the end of the year, like you put it out at the end of the year. But a lot of the questions are tailored for like, what are you going to do by the end of the year? And so it kind of makes sense to do it now, even though there's still several months to go. So maybe that'll happen. I like the prompts. I think that they're fun, and I have watched those videos and I've had a lot of fun watching those videos. So yeah, maybe I'll do one of those. I think that'd be cool. And then yeah, another one of these potentially like a wrap up, but the wrap up is the one that is the least likely to happen because the due date is at the end of the month. So I don't know. I wouldn't put a lot of money on a wrap up for October. We'll see what happens. I don't know, but I will be here eventually. I will be back. If you see that there's a gap in my release schedule, that's why. And just know that I will be back. I will probably not be very, accessible in terms of like, YouTube comments and things like that once the baby's here. And I won't be super responsive to messages, but bear with me. I will be back eventually. And when I do come back, I'll probably just do like a wrap up of what I've been doing since my last video. But yeah, again, it's entirely possible that there's not really a big gap. I'm assuming there'll be like a month off, but we'll see. Maybe not. And that is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching this video all the way through to the end. I really appreciate that. That was really kind of you. You didn't have to do that. If you're still here and you haven't yet subscribed, consider doing that. I always appreciate that as well. Otherwise, I will see you next week. Or I won't see you next week if you don't subscribe, I guess. But if you are subscribed, I'll see you next week. Thanks again. Bye.